Hello, welcome to Build. Oh, wow, look at that. Delayed, but good job, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. With It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, my next guest and his friends created the most consistently funny, brilliant, and daring comedy on television for 12 seasons and running. Now, Glenn Howerton is taking his skills to another network and another show, but have no fear, Sunny fans. Glenn Howerton's new show, AP Bio, airing this Thursday at 9:30 on NBC, is really, really, really good. Let's take a look at a clip.
You almost killed me! What were you doing?
So sorry, let me show you something.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Where are you going? All right, everybody, let's go ahead and start to shut up now. My name's Jack Griffin, and I don't want to be here. I'm living in my dead mom's apartment while teaching advanced placement biology. I'm an award-winning philosophy scholar, but here's the deal. We're not going to do any biology in here.
Are you seriously never going to teach us biology at all?
Maybe Pablo Picasso can come in and teach driver's ed. This week, we are devoting our attention to the psychological dismantling of my academic rival, Miles Leonard. Miles happens to be British. He also happens to be adopted. So, this week, we will practice British accents. And whoever is best will call him, posing as his biological birth mother, and tell him some sort of devastating secret. Go.
The bookstore at the mall has good espresso, my lord.
Hey, not bad. What is this class?
Hey, where are you going? You can't leave these students unattended. These kids are old enough to get pregnant. They can't be alone for 2 seconds. That's literally the reason they shouldn't be left alone.
It's Jack, right? From Harvard?
Yeah.
Harvard Jack. So it seems like you're enjoying yourself here?
God, no. Teaching high school in Toledo. It's terrible.
Everybody, please welcome Glenn Howerton.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen, thanks so much for being here.
I'm very happy to be here. This is very exciting.
I love the show. It's incredibly funny. But before we even get into what it is, and I want to talk about how hard is it for you to pick stuff to be a part of, having coming from really owning a show for 14 seasons, or for 12 seasons, going to be 14 eventually.
Yeah.
But how hard is it for you to get a project and be like, okay, I will devote my time to this now?
I wasn't going to do it at all, anything, for that very reason. But yeah, this is one of those things where this script hit my desk, and it was just so funny. Right from the beginning, I felt like he'd written it for me, and he absolutely did not. I'm not even sure. Mike O'Brien, by the way, is the guy who created the show.
What does that say about you, that you felt like it was written for you?
That's a very good point. No, it was just one of those things. It was like this is written in my voice. You know, I've actually never felt like I'm that good at writing for myself, even though I write for Sunny. I feel like Charlie and Rob are much better at writing for my character than I am. But it just felt like he knew me. He got inside my head. I mean, it was so my sense of humor. And knowing that Seth Meyers and Lauren Michaels were behind it, and I was already a fan of Mike O'Brien's, the creators, coming off of SNL anyway. So I couldn't. It was one of those things I couldn't say no. Even though, it's tough to give up some of that control that I'm used to having, but I felt like I was in good hands.
How do you give up that control? Is it just that you're making sure that the people behind the camera you trust just as much as you trust yourself, so when you get in front of the camera, you can kind of just do that job?
Yeah, exactly that. I need to feel like whatever it is that I'm going to play, whatever character I'm going to play, whatever lines are on the page, that I can kind of dance around it a little bit, you know, say the words, but not really say the words, say kind of my version of the words. I need to understand what the sensibility is, what's funny about it. And if I can do that, then I can play around with it. Because I rarely, especially with comedy, want to say exactly what's on the page. It's always some version of that, and every take has to be different.
To make it as natural as possible and make it feel as as fresh as possible and surprise you?
Yeah, making it sound and feel natural is definitely part of it, but it's also that I want it to feel like it's happening for the first time, which was always our thing with Sunny right from the beginning, which is why we shot it the way we did. you know, shooting multiple angles at once so that we could improvise with each other and mess around and have it feel like this is the first time the characters are ever saying these words.
And be as cheap as possible in the first couple seasons, I would imagine.
Yeah, that was another big part of it. Yeah. But I think that was the only way we were going to get away with doing what we were doing, is to make it as cheap as possible, because, you know, with that material, I think nobody else would have let us do it.
Yeah, it didn't matter as well. The material itself is so rich and crazy and funny. You could, you know, I think the pilot you guys shot on like a video camera, and I've seen that pilot on YouTube, some clips of that, and it is extremely funny.
Thank you. Yeah, it looked absolutely terrible.
The jokes, the writing is still there. I mean, it's a great testament to like the idea that it doesn't matter what the quality is, if the writing is good, like it will stand up.
Yeah, we were very influenced by Curb Your Enthusiasm and the original British Office when we made that. When we made the original home movie, we thought, well, all we need to do is, we don't need to do anything professional here. Let's just get a couple cameras, these prosumer cameras that are pretty nice, and just open the blinds, turn on some lamps, and get our friends to, you know, hold a boom mic on a broomstick, which we literally did. And, you know, we thought it looked great. But looking back on it now, it looked absolutely terrible. And even the first 4 or even 5 seasons of the actual show that we made on FX.
5 seasons.
Looked pretty terrible. Which we kind of liked. I mean, we wanted it to look kind of grungy, like the characters are grungy, like the bar is grungy, like the world is grungy. And so we thought that'd be cool to have it look grungy. And it was. But now I think, you know, I'm always surprised that people still go back and watch it, because I think it looks so bad that I'm surprised that people aren't. It looks so antiquated, you know what I mean? But I really.
Well, I mean,
appreciate
2005, everything on television at that time looks antiquated compared to now. I mean, even if you go back and watch The Wire, which is like the greatest show of all time, you're still kind of like, oh, were they shooting on 4:3? This is crazy.
Yeah, they were shooting on 4:3, and it looked like they were shooting on iPhones. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Same thing with The Shield. Like, you go back and watch the first season.
Well, The Shield looks so dated.
Oh,
and
it looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks terrible. But the material's so good. The acting's so good. The performances, the writing, the plotting is so interesting that I guess it works. Which is maybe why people still watch Sunny.
It is. I think it is. Good. When it comes to being on the set of AP Bio, did you ever find yourself in moments where you're like, oh, that's not my job here?
No, everybody was really collaborative. I mean, Mike was always open to my suggestions. I gave a lot of notes on the scripts. I gave a lot of notes, you know, on set. So it was always very collaborative. But again, the writing was good enough on the show where I felt like I could pretty much concentrate on my job, which is just playing the character.
Yeah, that's also one of those things too, where when you sign on, I'd imagine you want to make sure that the people you're working with are open enough to collaboration that when you give a note, you don't feel like you're kind of bothering people at the same time, you know?
Yeah, I have to do. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the case with any actor, especially if you're playing the main character. It has to be collaborative. Otherwise, because you're already one step removed from the character in the sense that you're not really that person. So if you can't also then have a voice in who that guy is, how he dresses, how he behaves, how he talks, then you're one more step removed from the character. So yeah, that was essential to me.
When did Patton come on?
That's a good question. I believe he came on after me, but not that long after me. I'm not totally sure, but soon after me.
Was he a fan of It's Always Sunny? Did he show up?
Yeah, it was very sweet because I was a fan of Patton's for years. I just love his stand-up, and I love him as an actor too. But his stand-up, I'm just a massive, massive fan of. So the first time I actually met Patton was at the first table read of the pilot, and I sat right next to him, and I said, "Hey, man, you know," I just introduced myself, and he was so. I guess it's weird. It's like I live in this bubble with Sunny where I don't always. I never assume that people know the show or love the show, or whatever. So he right off the bat was just so. He was so giddy to meet me, and he was such a huge fan of the show, which is always weird when you're a fan of somebody and then you find out that they're like a big fan of your work. There's also nothing more gratifying than that. It's like wow, I love your work. When somebody you respects your work, it's a pretty great feeling. So we kind of hugged each other. And then I was like, why am I hugging this man? I met him literally 2 seconds ago.
You like my work? I just want to hug you, man.
Yeah, can I hug you real quick? Can I just give you a big hug?
Where did you find the kids for this? I mean, some of these kids are really funny and really funny looking.
That was yeah. No, he's right. He's right. They are.
Intentionally so.
No, to be fair to them, a lot of them don't look anything like this in real life. They actually made them look far nerdier than they actually are. But I don't know. That was my biggest concern because I knew the writing was good. I knew the people behind the show were good. But I wasn't sure, are you going to be able to find these kids? Like, because if the kids aren't good, then the show's not going to be good. I mean, I'm teaching a group of kids, and they have to be funny. The first time we sat down and started rehearsing with these kids, I mean, I couldn't keep it together because they are so good and so funny. It's such raw talent.
They're very dry, too. That's one thing that I like about the way the kids are being used is you're giving them hysterical things to say, but they're not saying it in an, oh, shucks, look at this kid way. They're actually far drier comic performances than I think the adults in the show.
Yeah, that was essential to me, too, and I know essential to Mike is to keep the performances all grounded. You know, you let the words and the intentions of the characters be the comedy, you know, and then you don't have to be so sort of wacky as an actor, which kind of drives me crazy. But that was one of the things that blew me away about these, because I think a lot of times when you're starting out, you're like, you do one of two things. You either underplay things because you're afraid of being wacky, which I fall in that trap sometimes. I'm so afraid of being over the top and wacky that I sometimes I find myself being too small.
There's nothing worse than when you try to be wacky and someone has to tell you that you're being over the trip. You're like,
yeah, it's like my greatest nightmare.
Such a corny bastard. God damn, can I just kill myself today? Like,
yeah, I mean, to Rob and Charlie's credit, they're always trying to be like, just go bigger. Yeah, because I actually now in retrospect, I believe that you can be, that it's not about the size of your performances as much as it is whether the performance is endowed with a certain truth. So I think I think with a young actor, you either underplay things because you're afraid of being wacky, or you overdo it because you're afraid of not being too funny, and then you end up being wacky. And these kids, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they were nervous or not, but they didn't seem, I mean, they seemed like seasoned professionals. And some of them have done, you know, quite a bit of work prior to this, but some were pretty fresh.
Now, there's been, I don't know if I would call it controversy, but you felt the need to respond on Twitter to Sunny fans who think that because you're doing AP Bio, you won't be doing Sunny, but also maybe that's true because Dennis left in the last episode of Sunny.
Yeah.
And you sort of answered everybody's questions, but then at the same time finished off with being like, but maybe Dennis doesn't come back. Fuck off.
Right. Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, I guess, yeah, look, this is me as a as a human being in the public eye trying to learn, you know, messaging. I guess I'm not good at that, you know what I mean? So I need to be more clear. But
it took me 5 tweets.
It took me, yeah, 5. Yeah, I mean, look, it's really, the truth is I don't know how to answer the question because, you know, I think with a lot of shows, when you're not the actor and the writer and the producer, if I were just an actor, I'd go, I don't know if they're bringing him back or not. The character left. I don't know. They haven't told me. But as a writer and producer, that's not the case because I have control over whether he comes back or not to a certain degree. I mean, obviously Rob and Charlie do too, but it's a difficult question to answer because we haven't answered the question. We want to come from a creative. People keep asking me, are you coming back? And I didn't know how to answer the question, and I think I realize now the reason I didn't know how to answer the question is because I was like, oh, I don't know if it's not me, it's Dennis. Right. Like I really do think of the character as a separate thing. We as creators decided to do something that we thought was interesting, which is to have the character leave at the end of the season. If I say I'm coming back, that means the character's coming back. I can't tell you whether the character's coming back. A, because I don't know, because we haven't started writing the new season, and B, because I would never tell people if the character's coming back, because that would be giving away the plot of the 13th season.
But you, as Glenn Howerton, writer, producer, are coming back, of course. Maybe not maybe not Dennis, but you're not gone as a creative collaborator behind the scenes.
No, I am not gone as a creative collaborator. Yeah.
And I would imagine if you are behind the scenes, you're probably going to want to jump in front of the camera at some point, and therefore, at which point, Dennis will be back.
Yeah, look.
Like what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, this is good. It's good.
I'm gonna make you go on another Twitter thread when you walk out of here.
Dennis confirms again that he's coming back to the show. Again, my name's...
There it is. Did you guys hear it? Dennis confirmed. Sorry.
It's kind of funny to me to watch the whole back and forth thing, actually. But I swear I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not, like, toying with people. The temptation to come back as an actor is absolutely there because, I mean, I love working on the show. I mean, this is going to sound corny, but the truth is I want to serve, as a human being, I care less about myself and my own career as I do about the show. You know, that's that show, that's my baby, that's my creation. And I want to do right by the show, regardless of whether I want to come back. I thought it was an interesting thing. We thought it was an interesting thing to have my character leave. So we want to service that storyline as creators, as artists. We want that to be the primary focus. Is what would be the best way to service the show in the 13th season? Is it to have the characters try to deal with this missing guy? Is it to have us hit the reset button like we always do and have them come right back in like it never happened? You know, all of those possibilities are on the table, and we've talked about them all. But I do think it's, and this is why I keep saying this, I do think it's entirely possible that he's gone, because that may be the funniest thing to do. We haven't decided yet.
That would be very funny if he was gone. I am curious about, when I was thinking about Dennis being gone, when I was thinking about this, do you think it would be, and I don't think it would be, because Sonny can kind of go in any direction it wants, and Dennis is always really the butt of the jokes, and his malicious attempts at seducing women are really the butt of jokes. But can Dennis kind of exist in this moment that we're living in right now? I mean, I went back and watched the boat episode, is maybe my favorite episode. And the monologue that he has, or the conversation that he has with Mac about the implication, is still very, very funny. But I also, like, if that aired today, I'm like, would people be able to handle this? I'm not really sure. Very fair question, because, you know, I don't know. I don't. That's the truth. I don't know, because he is walking a very, a very thin tightrope with that conversation. Obviously, you know, because he is not saying, and I mean, you have to believe Dennis when he says, "I would never actually hurt these women." You know, but at the same time, what he's implying, what he's trying to accomplish by using the implication, is pretty nefarious. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's pretty nefarious, to say the least. You know, so I don't know if your question is whether we could get away with that now.
Or if you would even, it's not, because I think you could. I mean, you guys did The Gang Turns Black last season.
Yeah.
Which, like, I wouldn't imagine anybody being able to get away with. But you absolutely pull it off. I mean, who am I to say you pull it off? You pulled it off, in my opinion, but
yeah.
I'm not.
Well, I think to a certain degree we're grandfathered in. I think at this point people understand what it is that we as creators are trying to accomplish with the show through these characters. These characters are not meant to be glorified. The characters are behaving in ways that we maybe wouldn't like to admit we think sometimes, that we'll never act on these actions. So we get to watch the inevitable conclusion of behaving a certain way.
Nothing ever works out for them.
No, but they're meant to be a reflection. They're meant to be a reflection of a certain mentality that exists in our culture, right? And so we get to watch somebody, you know, you walk around, you see the way people park their cars, or you see the way people throw trash on the street, you see the way people behave, and you go, who does that? Why would you do that? Why would you behave that way? You do not care about anybody else? And so our show is there to let you, give you some, that's our attempt to get inside the head of a person who would behave in the most deplorable manner, and watch how they justify the way they behave. You know, that's like my obsession, is to understand how somebody who behaves in the most deplorable manner try to justify their behavior. And so that's what these characters are, and they fail. They always fail. They always lose. And I think that's important. But I think, look, we have to be able to satirize what's going on. We have to be able to satirize a certain way of thinking, and find the humor in it. Not everybody thought The Gang Turns Black worked. Not everybody thought it worked.
What did you think at the end of the day?
I'm very proud of that episode. I'm very, very proud of that. You know, you have to explore. Look, we're all limited in. I'm limited in my experience and how I walk around the world. Like,
that's why I was like, I liked it, but I don't know.
Well, that was our attempt to say, look, I don't know. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like, and to explore that. You know, I hope that people can understand the intention behind it. You know, whether we hit the mark or not for everybody, or whether we nailed it on certain fronts, or whether we were offensive or whatever. You know, I like to think that people are smart enough to understand that these are the creators and the writers exploring a certain territory, right? in the best way that they know how. Our intention is never to offend people. Our intention is never to hurt people's feelings.
I also think your intention behind that episode was to teach, or was it to have like a very direct opinion about the scenario, because you all seem aware that you don't really have the right to like a very direct opinion about the scenario. So it was more of I wouldn't say it's an open-ended question at the end of the episode, but it was you guys, like you said, just kind of exploring this a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say that's exactly right. I mean, it was us exploring it, and also acknowledging the fact that, you know, our show is antiquated in the sense that, you know, the stars of the show are 5 white people. And acknowledging the fact that we have a very limited experience in this world and that our experiences as white people does not reflect everybody else's experience. We needed to acknowledge that.
What was it like when you guys finished your first cut of that episode and you were with, I don't know who you watched it with, or if you guys just watch it together and then send it over to legal and whoever and then they put it up, or was there like a network notes that came around? Was there a conversation that happened?
You'd think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think. We have, you know, it's...
Great, run it. No.
Yeah, no, kinda.
Really?
Yeah.
John Landgraf, man.
It's not that they don't think about it. It's that they over the course of 12 years, we've earned their trust. And they know our intentions. Look, I mean, if they see something they don't like, they tell us. But they also understand.
That ever happened?
Yeah, sure. But it's never. But it's never. We don't like this because we find this offensive, or we're afraid that the territory you're treading on is gonna lose us advertisers or whatever. It's never been that.
Like you'll only be fat for 1 season, though, right? Is that?
Look. I would have loved it if he'd stayed fat. But
It was enough.
But I was afraid. You know, like I don't want him as a human being to die from fatness. But I thought him as when Rob went, it was very funny. It was very funny. It changed him. Like he turned into a character. It was really interesting to watch.
Like behind the scenes as well?
No, I always thought like, so we'd be writing that season and he would literally just have a giant box of donuts in the room and he'd just be housing donuts. I was like, oh my God, you're gonna feel so terrible. And the irony of it is, and this is a terrible thing to say because I don't want to, he felt great. I'm like, you feel terrible, right? He's like, I feel great. I don't think that would have worked for me. I think it would have felt terrible.
Junk food rules when you get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels better and better the more you pack in.
I don't know. Until the disease happens, and then...
Well, then you die of fatness.
And then you die of fatness and all the diseases that are related to it.
Do you guys still have an amazing time when you get together and make the show? Is there ever a feeling of like, all right, how are we going to do this again?
Well, yeah. After 12 seasons, there's always a feeling of how are we going to do this again, for sure. But that's part of the fun too. We still have a great time together. I mean, I don't want to do, especially with if I'm doing a drama, which I haven't done much of.
Fargo. I mean, it was a kind of a comical character in Fargo, but it was a comic drama.
For sure. Yeah. No, if I'm doing a drama, it's less important to me to be like, oh, this is fun, wee. But if I'm doing a comedy, if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. That was again one of the reasons why I signed on to do AP Bio, is meeting the whole team of people, and then getting to meet Patton and the girls who play the female teachers on the show, Lyric, Jean, and Mary. They were all so funny. This is some of the most fun I've ever had shooting a show in my entire life, and I hope that fun comes across. I mean, because I think especially with a comedy, when the actors are having fun, I think it really shows. I think it comes through. So that's really, really important to me. But yeah, on Sunny, for sure, we're all still a family. We have a good time.
In terms of not having fun, and you're probably going to not get mad at me for asking this, and I'm sorry. But when I was looking at your IMDb today, I didn't know this, but you were in the first season, or the only season of that 80s show. That 70s show spinoff.
Buddy, I was the lead of that show.
I know, well, at least you're proud of it.
I wasn't just in it. I was the guy.
Led that 80s show.
I was the guy. I led it right into the ground.
Was that, you were talking about having fun. I mean, I was just watching that, and you get a sense of watching that it's work. It doesn't seem like it was that much fun. Was that the case when you were making a show like that?
Yeah, but that was
Not
part.
to put anyone down
No.
part of it. I don't mean to do that.
No, not at all. That was partial. I was not having a great time on that, but that's not because of the show or anybody involved in the show. I actually loved everybody involved, the writers, the cast, everybody. That was my own. I was in my head. You know what I mean? Like I'd done mostly theater to that point. I was a theater guy, and then all of a sudden I was thrust into this thing, and it's one of those things where you don't have experience with something. You go, you start to do weird things like, oh, where do my hands go? What's my face doing? Oh my God, what does my face look like? And it was the first time I'd ever done something where I would, with theater, you do the thing and you can't see it, and then you do, it occurred to me, I was like, I'm going to be able to watch this. So you become self-aware. I was like self-conscious in a way. I was like, what's my face doing? What are my eyebrows doing? What am I, So I was like self-conscious and self-aware to my own detriment when I was doing that show. So that wasn't fun for me, not because of any other thing other than myself being in my own head.
Going from theater to a sitcom, which is like also a completely different shift in terms of tone and how you feel about the content that you're doing.
Yeah, and I also wasn't ready to assert myself yet as an artist. So, and coming from theater, again, when you're doing Tennessee Williams, you don't sit down with the director and go, hey man, can we change this? Hey, this line, I don't really understand this, can we make a couple adjustments? So I thought, like, you get the script and that's
he
it.
Drops the menagerie? I don't understand what the point, like.
Why would you do that? It's glass. But you don't, you do that on a with shows, with TV shows, and even with plays. Usually those plays have been workshopped with the cast like over and over and over again. So by the time you do it, it's pretty great. And then when you're dealing with, there's a reason Tennessee Williams, we still perform his plays. There's a reason why we still perform Shakespeare's plays. Although with Shakespeare, we do kind of change some of it because some of that humor is pretty antiquated. Let's be honest. Come on, Shakespeare.
Quick, before I got to move to the audience, I'm running out of time, but I'm curious when the pilot took off, when you guys got the show for It's Always Sunny, had you been planning on that point to be a writer and a producer, or did that become a kind of default position that you found because you guys created this show together?
It was a default. It was a default position. We knew we wanted to be in charge of the show, but I think initially we tried to find collaborators to help us because we didn't have any experience. And we kind of couldn't get anybody else involved.
Really?
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, we couldn't get anybody to read it. We couldn't get anybody to watch the DVD. We couldn't get it. So finally we said, all right, screw it. Let's just do it ourselves. And then we actually sold the show, and they were like, great, do it yourselves. And we were like, okay. And I think that ended up working in our favor in a way. I mean, I wouldn't say that that would work for everybody, because I mean, it's not like you can just kind of be like, hey, let's be funny and it works. There is structure to a script. Well, you have to adhere to that structure.
Incredible structure to the scripts of It's Always Sunny. It moves like this, and there is very clearly first act, second act, and it comes back around in a cycle almost all the time. They're incredibly well structured.
Thank you.
Most of the time. So
No. Yeah, you're right. But it's weird. As a writer, I sometimes feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Because I still consider myself a writer an actor first and foremost. So whenever I'm writing, I'm like, I should not. Someone else who knows what they should be doing. And then I do it and it works. But I don't know that it would always work. I don't know if it only works on Sunny.
Have you ever tried to write anything outside of?
Yeah, I mean, we had a sci-fi show, a sci-fi comedy on Fox that we did a pilot for. That's one of my favorite things we've ever made.
Oh, right. Was that animated, or was that live action?
No, it was live action.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we made the pilot, but that's a long story. And it's really funny. It's really good. And then I've got an animated show that I wrote recently that we'll see if it actually gets made. But so I'm writing other things, but it's still weird for me. I'm very uncomfortable with identifying myself as a writer.
I think even the best of writers find themselves in the midst of a project going, I suck at this. I am not a writer. I should never have tried this.
Yeah,
like Philip Roth at times was probably like in the middle of his 30th novel and was like,
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that the secret to successful people is, and certainly there are successful people out there who do their thing and they're like, I'm good at this. I'm very good at this. But I think
Yeah, John Grisham. I mean, whatever.
well, yeah, but I think there's also a certain number of people who are like, I'm doing this, but I don't know why they're still letting me do this, and they don't really know why, and you just, you want to do something, and somebody lets you do it, and you go, great, I got it, and then you turn around and you go, I don't got it. I don't got it. And that's how we felt. That's how we felt when we got Sunny. We were like, well, we got to do the first season. We only had to do 7. We were like, we said yes, and we're like, yeah, we got it. And then we turned around and we're like, do we have this? Do we got it? I don't know.
What was the first day of the writer's room like when you guys had to do that?
There was no writer's room.
It was just you guys in your apartment?
It was the 3 of us in our apartments. We didn't even have an office. It was crazy. We were 3 guys who had no business writing a show. And then the second season was the same way. They picked it up again. We were like, we have to do this again? Now we have to do 10 of them? Oh my God. And then it wasn't until the 3rd season where we were like, hey guys, can we have an office? We were still writing out of our apartments, and we were writing in our manager's office. And then I think it was our line producer trying to save money. He didn't tell us that we could have an office. And then 3rd season we were like, hey, can we have an office? He was like, oh, shit. Cat's out of the bag. Cat's out of the bag. They know too much now. And then we hired a couple writers. So it wasn't until the 3rd season we had a couple. But even then we only, I think, had 3 or 4 writers on our staff other than the 3 of us. And then 4th season we became a real show.
4th season you became a real show.
Yeah. Kind of, it wasn't until the 4th season we actually had a staff of writers.
And how much did it actually? I know I'm supposed to go to questions, but I love It's Always Sunny. This is it's too hard for me not to ask these questions. I apologize.
It's okay.
When the 4th season comes, you get all these writers around you. Does anything actually change for you guys, or had you already essentially built a process for yourselves? It was almost hard to break that, even if you had 5 other amazing writers in the room with you.
Well, no, I think most writers' rooms work the same way. You have a very strong single. You have a creator, or in our case, 3 creators with a very strong point of view in a sense. And we'd already done 3 seasons, so we knew what the show was. We knew, for the most part, and we wanted to keep experimenting and changing things. But so the writers' room just becomes an opportunity to fuel the fire. We're still the fire. We're still the main. We're still the big logs. But sometimes you need some kindling. Sometimes you need people to come in there and go, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And there may be 20 things on the board, but maybe only 2 that actually resonate with us. So we take those 2 and we make something out of it. But those might be 2 or 3 things that we never would have thought of had we not had this, room full of extremely smart and funny people. And it was the same way with Mike on AP Bio. I mean, Mike's got a really strong sensibility, but he didn't have a tremendous amount of experience writing a show, which I actually liked. I like that he didn't have a ton of experience, because I don't like working with people who are like, this is how you do it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that can often lead to failure. But he surrounded himself by really funny people.
Well, that's not how you get something that connects. That's how you get something that runs a season, maybe 2.
I think
but
so.
Usually it's the people who know how to break out of the patterns or
I agree.
break out of that structure that you get something that really ends up landing.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's your guys' turn. Who's got a question? Right here.
Hi. So some of my favorite Sunny episodes are when you're mentoring the youth, The Gang Gives Back, or Frank's Little Beauties. Was that something that felt familiar when you entered AP Bio? Because it looks similar.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, thank you for bringing up Frank's Little Beauties. I feel like that's a very underappreciated episode of the show. It's one of my favorites. I find that episode very funny. Working with kids, being a bad role model to kids is always funny to me. But what I love about AP Bio is, while he sets out essentially and he tells these kids, I'm not going to teach you anything. Don't come in this class and think you're going to learn from me. You're going to take a nap, and I'm going to do my own thing. And if you shut up and do what I say, you'll get an A. But what's great about this show is these kids actually want to learn, which is what sets this show apart from other shows where it's the teacher comes in and the kids are unruly and they don't want to learn anything, and he's like, I'm going to turn this class around. This is the opposite. They're like, we got to turn this guy around because we got a test coming up and we don't know shit. I loved coming in and saying, I'm not going to teach you anything. But inevitably, in treating these kids terribly, what he's ultimately doing is kind of treating them like adults. He's not treating them like kids. So he kind of ends up teaching them how to be adults and to stop leaning on adult figures to tell them how to live their lives, So, you'll see throughout the course of the series that you know, he forms a real bond with these kids, and I think they feel close to him because he doesn't treat them like they're dumb little kids. He says, hey, you know, you got to learn how to be adults. You're almost 18 years old. Like, you got to figure your own shit out.
Next question.
Hi. I think this show is like really interesting because I think if I were in a bio class and you as a teacher showed up, I'd be thrilled because I sucked at bio. But I'm just wondering, was AP Bio, like, the subject a specific choice, or was there, like, why is it AP Bio and not...
Why biology?
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to ask Mike O'Brien. That's a very good question. I've never been asked that. I don't know. It's weird because my character, his background is in philosophy. So, you know, I play this disgraced Harvard philosophy professor who ends up getting in a fight with his 80-year-old boss and losing. And as a result of that, he gets fired and has to move back to his hometown, which is why he ends up teaching. But why biology? I don't know. I know that he wanted to have him teaching something that had nothing to do with philosophy, and something that he could have a certain amount of disdain for or no interest in whatsoever. But why specifically biology? I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question.
It sounds good. AP Bio. Like, it sounds better than AP English or...
They were wrestling with the title a lot because a lot of people, they weren't sure if people would know what AP was. I mean, I knew what it was, right? You guys, yeah.
I was in advanced placement classes. I know what it was.
Nerd.
Just one I failed. Next question. I think that was our last one.
No, hi. So we're going to do our last question from an online viewer. Kit wants to know, have you ever considered doing live theater? And if so, is there any particular play you want to do someday?
Wow, love it. Yes. I've done lots of live theater. I actually did a play a couple of years ago down in San Diego. I did Comedy of Errors down at the Globe down in San Diego. So my whole background is in theater. So what role would I want to play? Oh my God! I mean, there's so many. I mean, this is so obvious, but I really would love to play Hamlet. I would kill to play Hamlet because I think there's a really dark, biting sense of humor that Hamlet has. I think the way Hamlet deals with his pain and anguish is a lot of times through extremely sarcastic wit. And I think sometimes that gets lost. I would like to do a really darkly funny version of Hamlet. And when I say funny, I really don't mean like ha 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 funny, but you know, I would want to bring out some of the comedy in the same way that like Chekhov is actually really funny. You read it on the page, you're like, this is the most depressing play I've ever read. But if you read it a certain way, it's actually really, really funny. Chekhov is really, really, really funny. And I think some people miss that. So, you know, bringing a certain amount of dark comedy to a Chekhov play or to Hamlet would be a lot of fun.
Is it difficult for you on the set of Always Sunny to take... I mean, clearly you take acting and performing seriously, and you consider the greats and the classics, and you'd like to perform in Hamlet. But when you're doing It's Always Sunny, it's so sarcastic and it's so comedy-driven. Do you have to put aside, like, taking acting seriously? Or
No.
Can you actually do you guys actually bring that in?
Absolutely. No, the thing is like, I like to believe that Sunny succeeded a lot because we weren't comedy actors. I have nothing against... we always approached it from we wanted the characters to... Look, the things the characters do are absurd, but it was always important for us to make it clear why the characters were doing what they're doing. There's nothing drives me crazier than seeing an actor do something because he thinks it'll be funny. It's like, that's not a reason for a character. A character would never do something because he thinks it would be funny. A character is fighting for what he wants. You know, my character is often ranting and raving. Like, does that... On the surface, you're like, that's not funny. That's a character ranting and raving, but it is funny because what he's ranting and raving about is ridiculous. But the character doesn't think it's ridiculous at all. So we always my approach to comedy is always almost from a more dramatic point of view. You know, making sure that what the character wants is relatable and real and rootable, and it makes sense that the audience understands what the character wants and needs it. So. And then you make what he needs and what he wants slightly ridiculous. Doesn't change your performance, but it makes it funny.
And also from a much more, from a writer's sensibility, a much more story-driven point of view as well. I think I may have said this already, but one of the great things about Sunny and I think AP Bio is they're by writers who are incredibly driven towards fast-moving story, moving those beats along very quickly. It never feels like anybody is kind of as much as you may improvise a little bit on Sunny, it never feels like anybody's improvising or joking around or trying to get their little one-off lines in. It feels like you guys are trying to get through a lot of story.
Yeah, well, that's partially due to the fact that, you know, the episodes kind of get slightly shorter and shorter, but...
Do they really?
Yeah, I think part of the, you know, the pace of sitcoms tends to move pretty quickly because you don't have a lot of time to tell a story, and if you have a lot of characters, you know, things, you know, sort of have to get paced up, which is difficult. But again, the most important thing is for me to keep a performance grounded is I have to really need the thing that my character needs. You got to really need that thing. You know, if you're just doing a bunch of pratfalls and stuff like that, I hate that stuff, man.
You said you don't want to be wacky.
I don't like wacky. I don't like wacky. I don't know. I think some people like wacky. I don't know.
The show premieres, AP Bio premieres Thursday night, 9:30, NBC, right?
February 1st, whatever day of the week that is.
I think that's this Thursday.
Is that this Thursday?
That's this Thursday.
Well, that's exciting.
That is very exciling.
That's coming up.
Hey guys,
that's this Thursday. That's this Thursday.
Yeah, that is
this Thursday. Is this Thursday?
9:30, like before 10 o'clock, 9:30 p.m.
Well,
Eastern,
there you go.
Pacific. I'm not sure what, you know, if it's 3 hours before Pacific or 2 hours. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Just set your DVRs.
Yeah,
or don't. Watch all the commercials. Watch them all.
That's true. That's true. Those advertisers, they want all of those commercials.
They need your eyeballs.
And when can we expect Sunny to come back? Whether Dennis is involved or not.
Yeah, I think Sunny is coming back this fall, I believe. Yeah, the writer's room starts in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic. Well, for now, guys, tune into the great AP Bio this Thursday night at 9:30 on NBC. Glenn Howerton, everybody, let's hear it.
Thank you, guys.